What is going on? I want to welcome you from F Court for today, Tuesday, November 15th, 2022. I'm your host, Sean Murphy. I am finally back off of the sidelines. Man, talking about all the Pistons injuries that we're going to be discussing today. Even I was on the freaking health and safety protocol list, not for COVID or anything. Shout out to Chipotle for that awesome food poisoning, but you don't got to listen to the details about that because you came here to talk about basketball, which is exactly what I want to do as well. And today we got to talk about the Detroit Pistons because, man, not an ideal start to the season by any stretch of the imagination, specifically when you're talking about the stuff that they've been through injuries wise. I mean, obviously, coming into this week with the news that Cade Cunningham was going to be missing at least the next 4 games. And, also the fact that, last night we got Isaiah Stewart who sprained his foot. So now, when we were finally going to see two big men lineups, we're starting to see experimentation in the starting lineup. All these changes were coming to the Pistons, and then it immediately feels like it's starting to tumble down. Let's break it down piece by piece. Let's talk a little bit about what that means for the team. Let's talk about where they're at and what they need to be doing going forward, especially to secure these wins. And is there anybody to blame? Because I think there's a lot of things to remind ourselves, a lot of good conversations to be had. But folks, before you do that, be sure you like this video. Be sure you subscribe down below. And also be sure you join in the comment section. It is good to see each and every one of you. I really missed doing content. So it's good to be back. It's good to be talking Pistons. It's great to be talking basketball. And the first thing that we got to talk about with the Cade injury, obviously over the mixing the next few games, but the obvious thing with Cade is he's going to come back when he's 110%. I don't think there's any reason to rush Cade back, especially when you're starting the season at 3-12, especially when it's very clear now that the direction of this season is we are focusing on development. We are focusing on the young guys and on improving and on going in that next step. Because at this current point in the season, for them to fully turn around and really be in the playing conversation, especially in how deep and how good this conference is this year, I don't think is a super realistic conversation. However, they can still learn to compete. They can still learn to get better. They can still be in the conversation. And I think that's what you've seen over the last couple of weeks is that even though the losses have still been coming, even though there's guys that have still been struggling, even though there are things that you want to be better, there are things where the team is better all around. Like the losses are getting closer. The losses are getting more consistent. The losses, you're seeing more adjustments. You're seeing really good performances out of your young players. It's no longer 15, 20-point losses. You're losing to good teams, even if they're missing some of their players, right? Like, even though, like, obviously the Raptors didn't have, Fred VanVleet, they didn't have Pascal Siakam. They still have OG Anunoby. They still have Scotty Barnes. They still have Thaddeus. So, like, that team is insanely deep. So the thing about it is that there's things that you can look at, and I know a lot of people in the comments. I know a lot of people are going to go to the Dwayne Casey conversation. We can go around that carousel all we want, but what I would say to you is exactly what Dwayne Casey said after that game. What are you going to do winning? How are you going to win that game when you're missing 12 free throws? That game was lost at the free throw line. Even a guy like Bojan Bogdanovic, who's been struggling over the last few games, it's not a secret that he needs to be better if this team wants to be in a position to, be winning more games. If this team wants to be competitive, he needs to be that consistent guy, right? And, shooting 2 of 8 from 3 last night wasn't great, but 6 of 10 from the free throw line. If he just made his free throws, the game would have gone to overtime right there alone. So that's where, the little things are what gets you over the hump. The little things are what makes the difference between a win and a loss. And quite frankly, coaches can't always just go out there and make shots for guys. So that's definitely an area where they have to be better. But I do think with this Cade injury, specifically with this Cade injury, it is an opportunity for these guys to learn how to play together, to figure out this rotation, what this team looks like around Cade, but also getting those opportunities for guys like Killian, but also guys like Jaden Ivey to have more of those touches, to be more of that leading guy on the court and to get that feel of what it's like for him to have the ball in his hands. And I think so far, you've seen that it's been really great for his development. And, you saw especially in that Boston game, he had a fantastic night, even though he said, he said personally he thought he had a bad night, even though he had a few turnovers. I thought he still had a pretty good game. And then he came out in the Raptors performance and arguably had an even better performance. And a lot of that was in the second half. And so you're seeing Jaden Ivey grow right in front of your eyes. You're seeing him continue to get better, but also you're seeing him take adjustments. You're seeing him make adjustments, and you're seeing him throughout a game figure things out. And specifically, you're seeing his ability to kick it out to guys when he's into the paint, his ability to use his speed and his athleticism to make playmaking and get shot opportunities for others. It's going to come down to guys making those shots. And I think another thing that you're seeing, I've talked quite a bit, when Marvin Bagley and Alec Burks come back to the lineup, it's going to be a different team. It's going to be a better team. It's going to be a more competitive team. What have we seen since Alec Burks and Marvin Bagley came into the lineup? And last night was really the first time we saw those guys play together. Of course, right when those guys come in, other guys go out, right? Like that's just the way the NBA works. That's just the way the Pistons seasons worked, right? You just can't get a break, it seems like, But I think with Bagley in particular, you've seen the effect that he can have in the offensive end. You've seen what his size brings on the defensive end. You've seen like the direction with Detroit wanting to have those two big lineups and what that brings as far as, on the defensive end of the court. It makes Detroit way more of a legitimate threat on the defensive side. And then in addition, Alec Burks is he's a pros pro, an absolute pros pro. The guy's an absolute marksman from beyond the arc. He's a consistent shooter. He gets good looks. He makes great decisions. He's stout on the defensive end. He's not the greatest defender on the face of the planet, but man, if I have him and Isaiah Livers out on the court, I feel good. If those are my guys, I can feel like we're going to play some pretty good basketball on both ends of the court. And then you throw in the fact that now, especially if they don't make this change going forward, what it looks like with Sadiq Bay, if he is indeed that sixth man role. And I know a lot of people are not happy about what that prospect looks like. And look, let's not make any secrets. So far, and it's still early, very, very early, and it can turn around. But Sadiq hasn't been up to Sadiq Bay standards this season thus far. Specifically from beyond the arc, he's only been shooting 30% from three. Over the last few games, he's had a little bit of had a little bit of a drought. He has been driving to the basket. He has been creating more opportunities, at the free throw line. He has been becoming more of an isolation player in that sense. And I do think that if he can pick up his scoring, I do think it is something that can help the second unit. But these are the types of experimentations that you make when you are evaluating. These are the types of experimentations you make when you're trying to figure out how this team best fits together, especially when you throw in guys like Jaden Ivey, especially when you throw in guys like Bojan Bogdanovic, especially when you throw in guys like Cade Cunningham. Guys need the ball. And sometimes you need guys to go out and operate and do things with the second unit. The minutes are going to still look the same. A lot of the times, it doesn't matter who starts the game. You're looking at who finishes the game. Sometimes we look at the most valuable guys who have come off the bench. I mean, Dwayne Casey I believe Dwayne Casey brought it up himself. He said, do you remember Manu Ginobili? But also there's other guys throughout time who have been really good sixth man. There's a reason why there's a sixth man of the year award. And the reason why is because your sixth man's important. They come off the bench, they set the tone, they bring something to your team. And I think with Sadiq Bay, I think he could be a damn great sixth man. Obviously, we don't know if that's going to be his role forever. We don't know if that's going to be his role going into the next game with injuries. So that's the tricky thing, is that right when we go out and make that experimentation, right when we have the opportunity to do two big men lineups, Isaiah Stewart sprains his right foot. And that's where the entire conversation changes. That's where it all flips. Obviously, we hope B Stew's okay. But it's one thing to talk about a sprained ankle. Man sprained his foot. I don't know. I don't know the timeline of a sprained foot. Could be a week. Could be 2 weeks. Could be 3 weeks. I couldn't tell you. I mean, especially we don't know the severity of the sprain. We don't know if it's swollen. We don't know how much mobility there is. He could be in the lineup tomorrow night, and this could be a non-starter. This could be a non-convers. This could be a non-conversation. However, if he is out of the lineup, we might be looking at Marvin Bagley starting. We might be looking at Jalen Duren getting the opportunity to go into the starting lineup. Are we going to see those guys play together at all with Isaiah Stewart being out? Are they going to start staggering Bagley and Duren? Are we going to have more of those issues and struggles? Or is that like consistent length of Bagley and Duren? Is that potentially something that could help us over this stretch? I'm interested to see, but I think as we're looking at going forward, looking at the Pistons schedule, looking at like what they have facing them, like they're about to start their West Coast stretch, right? On Thursday, they're in LA. So it begins. They're going to be at the Clippers, at the Lakers, at the Kings, at Denver. So the road trip begins. Cade Cunningham could come back seemingly as soon as that Kings game on Sunday. But I think the big thing is obviously you don't want to rush it. But the ultimate thing is we look at the West Coast stretch each and every year, and it's obviously something that Pistons fans, like cringe at, they brace for, because a lot of times we look at the Lakers and it's like, oh God, they're good. They might be worse than us this year. The Clippers, oh God, they're good. We have no idea what's going on there. A lot of things are up in the air. They have a pretty darn good roster, though, and I would expect that to be a definite challenge. The Kings are actually a team that's good. Denver, that's a really damn good team. Utah, I'm really curious to see what that Utah game is going to look like. Well, the ultimate thing is there's going to be a lot of development. A lot of questions are going to be answered. But also, a lot of different experimentation with the rotations coming, different potential lineups. And also, I think guys' roles can be solidified in the lineup as well. But ultimately, what do you think of the Pistons play of late? What do you want to see them do to improve? What do you think they can realistically do on this road stretch coming up here, especially since they'll be going out to the West Coast? I would love to know what your thoughts are in the comment section down below. But also, just want to say it's really good to be back, y'all. I really miss doing content and expect a whole lot more of it coming, including potential double videos per day, talking more all things NBA. But with that, folks, I want to thank you all so much for tuning in. If you are so generous, you want to follow me on the app that Elon built. God, I hate where Twitter's going. And by the way, I did the freaking verification thing for a meme. I was like, all right, this is fun. I want to cancel Twitter Blue. And then I put in a request to get the check mark canceled. And then they fired half their staff, and I'm pretty sure they don't have a customer service department anymore. So like I'm stuck with the check mark for like another 25 days. So go make fun of me on Twitter at Sean Half Corp. Anyway, thank y'all for tuning in. I'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you subscribe.